Okay, first on our agenda is the approval of the agenda.
So we need to add,
new agenda? Do we have another
we
copy?
didn't do another copy, I just figured we'd add
Okay.
the presentation, and I wasn't sure where you wanted to do it.
Yeah, I think in the,
Chair,
yeah,
I would approve the agenda as amended and as stated.
okay.
Okay, wait a minute, so how was it amended? I'm sorry.
We're gonna put 5B in for your book.
Good, okay.
I don't know that, and they're coming, cause.
Oh, nobody told you that we were going to
No.
allow it?
No,
Well, if nobody comes, we'll do it in August. How's that?
okay,
Okay, we'll put it on right now.
Under consent agenda,
No
can we
reports.
add a,
Oh,
well,
oh,
just wanted to add an approval to transfer the $35,000 from our
Oh,
capital investment fund at the state to the individual branch library accounts.
The motion with the.
right. So we have a,
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Those in favor of the amended agenda, say aye.
I,
Those opposed? Approval of consent agenda. We have a motion to approve as amended. And then we'll have
We haven't
discussion.
moved, we haven't amended the consent agenda yet. I moved to approve the consent agenda.
That's fine.
Sorry, sorry.
Okay, discussion?
Yeah, in the minutes, it doesn't say who moved to go into exec session.
Oh, yeah.
Did you, Marty, do you
Okay.
have that?
Forgot about that. I don't remember who moved to go. I guess I didn't put that down.
We'll have to look at the video
Yeah, I can go back and check the video.
and then send her the,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I see the signature?
oh, we're not quite done.
Well, I was gonna talk about the additions.
Oh, sorry.
So some bills that came in, like Friday through Monday. So an Amazon credit, the Du Bois telephone bill for June. The treasurer thing is the postage we pay to them every month for like mailing paychecks or like. And then the Walmart expense was actually an LATC grant expense for the landscaping project to purchase seed and for that. But since we charged it on our Walmart community card to get the tax exemption, it comes out of our budget and then we'll get reimbursed from the LATC from the treasurer. So those are the additions.
So I have a question on the bills. There's the warm 5955, property assessment 42,000.
Yep.
And then cyber, whatever, for 500. What is that?
So so just the property insurance is the $42,000.
Okay, so that's just.
That's our annual insurance payment.
Got it,
The
okay,
the
got it.
cyber insurance is something separate that they're requiring. And so this is the
That's
first
good.
year. So,
So what does the cyber insurance do?
it's like if we get hacked, if
Okay.
we become victims of ransomware.
Got it.
And so
Okay.
Kevin and I looked at, what. With the kind of information that we have, that if someone tried to steal it, what kind of liability would there be? And actually, it's very low because we don't,
Personal information.
we keep very little personally identifiable information. And so that's why we went with level 2. So we'll see. That's
Another question. So I went back and was looking at the county commissioner meetings and, looked at your interview and you expressed a lot of concern about the finances. And whether, it's sort of with the implication that the library is doing stuff that you don't understand, you're signing off on. Is there any reason we can't, I thought you told me before that if we wanted to see any of these subsets, like the Amazon receipts and stuff, we could see those. All we have to do is ask. So, Kristen, in here, since you obviously are concerned about, been here for 3 years.
Yeah.
You're concerned that there's a library going on, you're not sure.
well, I'm not concerned about that. I just, in my experiences in personal business, I just don't sign off on things that I can't see.
Okay, but you can see. So what do you want to see?
Well,
I mean, for
I
3
know,
years, you've been able to ask to see
Right.
receipts, to ask to see.
I didn't realize that I could ask to see receipts, and I maybe missed that at some point. But I don't understand, and maybe this is a question for Mike, and I'll throw it out again. I don't understand why if there's all these checks and balances on the county side. And they're reviewing all this stuff, why my signature needs to be on stuff that I don't know what this. $800 is, or, I don't see a receipt for that. So it would be, I guess. Be two options for me. Either I get a detailed statement where I see every invoice, or I just don't sign.
State statutes for one, I mean, we're not an advisory board. Go ahead, Mike.
I can answer how we do it differently.
Yeah.
So we get a printout similar to yours.
Okay.
Of whatever that is, and I review that the night before the morning. If any commissioner, and all commissioners can do that. If they want to look at them, the bills and invoices are right there at our meeting. So I come in early. And if I have any questions about something that's new to me, like a new contractor or it's just a particular fee that I don't know what it is, then I can go and I can look at the invoice to see what specifically it is. And I think that's the level that she's not seeing, that we do see. And I think I don't know how you operate those differently, but I don't see why you couldn't do that and have those available. Anybody wants to comb through them, then you can come in and do it.
My question is that the job of the treasurer? Which is you. Do you have that ability to?
I have the ability, but what I was going to mention, Madam Chair, is that when things were in-house, when we had our own IT person, when we had our own business agent, the availability was there, but it was more difficult than it is, in my opinion, because I was only the head of the foundation. We had to deal with things where our money was going. That it seems to me that the Jim and the county's financial office has done a beautiful job of making it so there's accessibility. Now, if there's something that we would want to have, that would be a dashboard that was specific to certain things that would not be apparent in the dispersal of monies that would be AP, we could ask for that, but I really feel that it's unnecessary because the availability through Jim's office is pretty complete.
Except for she's not comfortable with, you don't
So,
wanna
yeah,
go to
you-
Jim's office, you don't wanna.
If I can email Jim with questions, or I just want a way that if my name's on it. I wanna know what it was.
Well, I understand that, and I think that is being judicious, but through my experience and practice with finance of our operation, the only thing we have is the unfortunate payment to our account and then reimbursement. That isn't really an issue because we have justified the payment. There's that lag if we were wondering about having the books put at the end of the period, and there's not that much lag. It would be like what happened with the friends of the library when they made a donation and they wanted to see where those monies were spent. You have to go through that. Well, that detective work isn't that tough, and I know that Jim is very, very willing, except during budget time when he's pressed.
Well, and I keep copies of every voucher and
Yeah.
invoice here.
Okay, so
that-
can you
but
just
there's-
pile those into?
I can, or if you just, it's, when you get this, just send me an email, would you bring the set of Amazon vouchers
Okay,
with you?
yeah, that would work.
That would do it.
Yep.
I would second that as well, just because, I mean, if our name is on something and we are a governing board, we're held legally liable for these things. It'd be nice to know what is going on. So to me, that would be
I
helpful.
know.
So is there some, go ahead.
Suggest to you that finance department's work is audited. We know
Right.
these things. So I have an inherent trust in what we have for the ability for reporting. If there's things that would be asked, I'm sure it can be accommodated. I don't mean to be in defense of the finance department, but in my experience, they've been pretty blue chip in breaking out those numbers on things that may be within a bill. And the onus really is that a lot of online outfits you may receive 6 packages for 23 items and they don't show as to the manifest. That they're all received at the same time, those kind of, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But when it comes to the dollar amount dispensed, I think you'll see that it flips, otherwise we would have heard about it through an audit.
So.
I disagree with that, by the
You
way.
think so?
Yeah,
Well, and I
Well,
think
Jim
if
has
that,
been very good at it, I believe.
I understand, but I still look at invoices.
Right, I understand.
I have the ability to go in, look at the invoice, understand what it is, and then my question's done.
Well, I
So-
have confidence, and that doesn't mean that. you
And
do
Jim
not.
doesn't look at those invoices. He doesn't sign off on whether that gravel truck was appropriate or not.
I understand that, and it's not a point of contention as much as the idea that for our AP, the items that we purchase, I think we can make it pretty sure that they're not being overcharged or anything in that, you've seen those reports.
So from now going forward, do you guys want to just email Anita and say, hey, bring X, Y, or Z? Is that how it's gonna work or what?
yeah,
what-
that works
yeah.
for me, that's,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay, cool.
Cause I go through and I circle all my questions, so then I can just say, I have questions about X, Y, and Z. You know, in a perfect world, they would just be stacked here and you could look through them, but I'm fine with that too, just asking for the ones I have questions on. Cause, and it's not that I don't have any confidence in what the county's doing, it's that your signature either means something or it doesn't.
I totally agree.
And I've signed off on thousands and thousands of bills over the years for a publicly traded company, and I guarantee you, they were audited. But I was still held accountable for the things I signed off on.
I don't, our oversight is reasonable, I don't want to take this any far, but I think it's, if this would satisfy your issue that you brought up to the board, with the county commissioners. But I do also believe that these things have, I don't want the appearance that there's nefarious elements, because it is brought up and discussed.
I don't think that at all, I don't wanna sign off on something I can't, period.
No, I
And
mean,
and
I
the
was just
other
concerned-
option is you guys have a quorum. If, you know, I can
What does?
refrain, if I refrain from signing the bills, you guys would be. You would still have a quorum of people signing, you see what I'm saying?
I know, Kristen, I think you're on the board here to make the board work.
Right,
And we have
Absolutely.
responsibility, so if there's any questions, and you obviously had a lot of concern.
Yeah.
We need to figure out. We need to answer those concerns, it's not just like, okay, I'm not gonna play because I'm not comfortable. No, if there's a problem that needs to be solved, we're here to solve problems. And
absolutely,
we're
I
here
agree.
to make the library work.
I
So-
was just saying that's the only other option I see.
Right, but I think that's sort of, I think that's an option that should not be pursued, because what we want to do is work together and make a library that functions well for the whole community. And by someone saying, I just don't, I'm not comfortable, I don't want to play, it's like, no, let's figure out what we need to do to answer these questions. A lot of questions are very valid. So that would be just my,
Part of the mechanics of this in our organization is we have rotation on the officers, and it's quite possible that you would be the next treasurer by rotation.
which would be great. I mean, that I think.
Experience
wonderful.
justifies it. I know it seems like it's more work. It's usually just maybe a dozen more calls a month.
I have no problem with that.
But that's where the reorganization comes up.
And my experience with accounting at the county area was really positive when we had an audit and I had to do an audit risk assessment. I had no idea, what was going on, so I went and talked with Anita to the accounting, and they alleviated some of my concerns with their process, and they just explained.
The only question I ever had was I felt it's when we talk about, we don't have a pro rata for charges internally for the IT services. But the benefit of the IT being within the county system is that we are getting more than our money's worth if you were going to look at it. It's been very.
Very good.
This is just a reference point for you, just so we can take the treasury department off the pedestal for a second. They're costing us an additional $100,000 this year in our budget because they failed to meet deadlines for audits for the last 3 years.
I understand.
We have
that
some
from a-
pretty difficult issues. So before I put them up as some sort of pinnacle of excellence, I would just say, we have big issues.
Right, what I'm
With that
asking
department.
us for is the due diligence at our end, and as it is for your questioning issues. I just feel with my personal experience in 15 years, that it was either on the library foundation, joining this. There, or, I'm not saying that it was abysmal with having in-house business manager in our department, but it's different. Your experiences were not ones that I had to deal with, especially on budgets where you needed numbers faster than you received. I understand that, so I will chisel the base of that pedestal down a little bit.
Any other discussion on the consent agenda?
Do we need a motion to change this, or is this just?
Like-
Procedure.
Yep, well, no, we need, the board minutes need to get the, who moved to go into the exec session. So I think we need to. You, who moved, he moved,
I moved the minutes, and that was true.
well, no, for the.
For the consent agenda.
That's the
I
thing.
only seconded the consent.
Okay, so I think that did I move?
Yes.
Yes, so I want to amend that to move to approve the consent agenda with the correction of the minutes as discussed.
And any other discussion? Everybody understood the 3,500 capital
Thousand.
into branch, 35,000. Right. Those in favor of the amended
Approval of consent.
motion?
Yeah.
Say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, correspondence. Any correspondence? Okay, moving on
Can
to,
we finish the signature page real quick?
moving on to public comment. 3 minutes, if you would like to address the board. One thing I will mention, if you have a complaint towards the library, we do have an official complaint form that we could get for you. And also, if you choose to address the board, I'm going to ask if you've already said the same thing at a previous meeting. I'm going to ask that you not take up our time during public meeting or public comment. Are you timing on items? So, anybody interested in doing public comment? Right.
I'm the treasurer of the foundation. I'm just going to stick up for Anita a little bit.
I'm sorry, your name, Jane?
Jane, I'm sorry, Jane Lynn,
How do you spell your last name?
L-I-E. Anita sends us such detailed reports that it's onerous. So I go through all of the junk she sends me, and then I just take it to the board. We can't pay for anything that's over $50 without full consent. of the board. And John, you probably remember that. So I go through them and go and then tell the board what it is, and sometimes we've had to cut Anita's budget. But we've never had to actually ask her for any detailed things because usually she gives them right to me. I don't know if she gives them to the treasurer, but that's what I would suggest, and the treasurer go through it and then head off any of the maybe controversy over it, because usually, Anita will write $1.25 per eraser she got from Amazon, so it's very, very detailed. Just some of the treasury stuff. And John, you probably already know that. Were you the treasurer?
I was president for the
Maybe.
organization.
Okay. Any other comment? Karen?
Karen Wetzel. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Kristen on her reappointment to the board. I think she does an excellent job and she goes out the board, which is always a good thing. Secondly, I also agree with Kristen and Marta. I would never sign off on anything without looking at what I was signing off on. I don't think it's nefarious to ask to do that. I think that if your name is going to be on something, if you have to sign off on it, you should be able to see what you're signing off on. And it shouldn't be a problem to bring that stack of bills like the county commission does and let everybody take a look at what you have, just to be sure of what you're signing off on. Thank you.
Any other? Okay, moving on to report roundtable. Are you sure?
Yeah, as you probably are aware, we just approved the budget, and you probably heard me say that we had a shortfall of about $5.7 million. Relative to the revenues that we have coming in. Okay, so basically, it's a real quick summary. If you look back over the last 3 years, we're about $2.5 million down from revenue. Our gas plant has been down half the year. Tribal entities have been taking control of their oil fields, which has reduced the tax base. So it's about $2.5 million down from last year alone. We're spending about $2 million more on salaries than we have recently. So we added a COLA at 8% last year, cost of living. And we did SOC adjustment, which I believe you guys were a part of.
Is that final?
Yeah, so it was,
That was last year.
Oh, last year,
The
not,
COLA
okay,
was
yeah,
last year. Okay,
We're part of the COLA.
yeah. You were part of the
That's-
SOC adjustments too, right?
I think we had some, was that the year before then?
It was the year before
That was,
or
yeah,
two.
we had, yeah.
But over the last 3 years, that's $2 million there.
Yeah.
And then what's different from 3 years ago is ambulance is $1.8 million versus 3 years ago when it was zero. Actually, we made money. So that's the big nuts. Those are the big chunks of why
It's not a challenge.
that we're up. Now, that being said, our SOC committee met yesterday. Our sheriff is asking for around $500,000 in salary adjustments because he's 21 out of 23 counties in terms of competitiveness on his salaries. And we have a lot of openings between the detention and the sheriff. So we put him off at the budget time because we wanted to look at all the SOCs. So, generally, the idea that we floated yesterday, and we're gonna crunch some numbers on it, is if we looked at the whole, including you, we looked at all the county and the salaries, we think it's probably still appropriate to look at a 5% increase, around 5%. Now, it's probably more appropriate that we do 10, yeah, to really stay competitive for the sheriff. And the idea that was being floated yesterday was, let's look at a 5% overall budget. We may give more of that to the sheriff, because he's in a little more dire straits, than others, but then take the remainder and I don't, and this got confusing for everybody. What was proposed was that we take that 5%, we give it to the department heads. And say, you disperse it the way you want to, not give everybody 5% increase. We give the department heads, the elected officials, the directors, and say, you tell us how you want to spend that 5%. I mean, you may have an employee that's really on their way out and you've documented their problems or whatever there is, don't give them any money. That's ridiculous. You know, or you're trying to protect somebody, or somebody's really, really low within their SOC, and we've struggled to try to get those SOCs as clean as we can. Now, the exercise we did last 2 years ago was we tried to get everybody to have levels of level one, level 2, level 3. And what does that mean? And so that as those people are approaching those levels, we can look at the current SOC evaluation for Northwest Wyoming, which moves. What it was 2-3 years ago, we brought a bunch of folks up closer and we had less folks that were below that line. Now we're back low just because we haven't been able to keep pace. So we're looking at some sort of a budget. Budgets a good round numbers between 1 and 1.2 million for the county to try to get some sort of increase to keep our competitiveness. So that'll affect you guys too. I would suggest that you don't have those levels, is that you look at those levels between like soon.
You
We-
basically do,
we have-
don't you?
Okay,
Yeah.
you have all that?
Yeah, we developed levels, like when you were talking about a couple years ago and.
Okay.
I mean, doing the SOCs, and so, I mean, something that impacts that is the 8% COLA adjustment.
Yep.
So. So you're saying the SOC committee, have they finalized
No.
categories, or, I mean, or like comparables, or like what's 25%? There are different categories in the SOC classifications comparing, and so we're shooting for
You're still shooting.
getting
for
everybody
that.
toward the
We're still shooting for that
25%.
25%.
Okay, so they're still coming up with, are they gonna tell us, okay, here's the range you can have, or is that still gonna be?
What the idea is being floated is that we give you a budget. If you don't know what those new comparisons are with the SOCs, then get with Julie. She can help you run those numbers and say, okay, these are the positions, these are how they fit, because SOCs aren't perfect,
Right.
you know, an admin assistant, we don't have any secretaries anymore because admin assistant paid more, so everybody went to an admin assistant. rather than their definition. I mean, it's a little bit squishy, but it's the best we have.
It's
And so
complicated.
we're still trying, and this is not an increase like the COLA was. This is an SOC adjustment to see where we fit, to see if we can't stay pace. So we covered the $5.7 million shortfall by pulling out of our reserves and our minerals reserves, which we had about $19 million, and we pulled most of it out of there, and then we had about $1.5 million that we pulled out of our investment fund that was sitting in excess. So we were able to pull that and relieve our reserves a little bit, but we're not that, we're a little pessimistic about what our revenues are gonna do. Over the next couple of years, our gas plant has been up and down. They're looking at some other things that would curb their revenue and, with property tax relief at the legislature, it's gonna take more of a chunk. It took about $250,000 this year out of the budget. We expect that to be bigger next year. Long term, I would say for the next 5-6 years, our outlook is probably a little more pessimistic, and that we're gonna have to figure out how we do what we do.
Jeffrey City supposed to have a huge uranium boom.
Yes. There you
So
go.
part of the problem what you were saying, I'm sorry.
I appreciate what you said, that you had to go into the reserves, which is anathema to managing something that is very tough because it's not very sustainable. My only question is, in its defense of the library lines in the budget, basically, that when it comes to in the future, and I don't know how long your tenure is, but in the next couple budgets, it's going to be that we will be looked at as having to cut, and then by some estimations, drastic. But there's some assurance, I would believe, that we will be in a proportionate status. We are not, because we've been kind of at with the commission, that there's some assurity that it's strictly on effective dealing with the budget as opposed to maybe the public image or the private image of this department in the county budget. Would you agree with that?
I'm not sure what I'm agreeing to.
I'm just asking if you think that we will be assured that we don't have retribution and will be predicated on. I'm asking that because it is a question.
Fair enough. I don't know.
Because we were.
I don't know the answer to that.
We
I
were
don't
used
speak
as an
about-
example that we would be having to lose hours. As the Du Bois, which you hear a lot about, but you're not in that district, because they really about the emergency services out there, which probably is not sustainable.
It's not.
Probably shouldn't even exist. It just can't, it just drains the county, and I'm from
Yeah, I can't answer that question. I don't know what 5 people are gonna do. You know, I'm one of 5.
I just wanted to.
I generally would say that there wasn't any sense of retribution this year in any of our discussions.
With any,
No,
all right, I appreciate, that's what I wanted.
order, but it's all who people elect, so.
I think just Perry was.
Okay. So in terms of Jim Anderson's department and your delayed information coming out, your financial information that you're saying that you as the county commissioners are not getting in a timely fashion. Is their department down in terms of personnel? Or are they fully,
They're fully staffed.
they're fully staffed? And are you looking at staffing it more or?
We're looking at hiring an outside person or entity to run the audit. Because we can't get what we need. And that's where the $100,000
That's
budget
fair.
just coming in. Yeah, we have to.
I mean, wasn't it
We're,
over 6
we're
months? thing?
outside of our statutory responsibility,
Right,
so.
that makes sense.
I was just gonna say, I think, staying competitive with salaries, and benefits is terrific. And, I'm supportive of that. But I also hear that our revenue situation is murky and we're pessimistic. So, a year from now, are we looking at, possibly having to cut our budget because of those things? And so we're adding to the budget. I just am looking to next year and not wanting to have to lay off people.
Right, you give them a raise this year and then let them go next year.
Yeah.
So, here's the, I guess, and this is really high level and it's not, it's kind of squishy, but. The general mood on the SOC conversation, and this is a group that has to come to the commission to get approval for whatever plan they put forward. Is that we want to bias on our employees. We've done that. That's where the 2 million of the shortfall is coming from. We've done that. We still think that's the right thing to do. Sitting over here is the shortfall. But the big targets that are out there in front of us right now is how we fund ambulance. That's a big number. People are not excited about a property tax. We took a run at trying to include it into the economic development tax and that got voted down. A sales tax would do it, but a sales tax has to be voted back in, and sales taxes are notoriously hard to get passed. So the other thing that we're doing is, I think I made the rest of the commission somewhat uncomfortable. I said, I think we need to give the tribes a deadline. They don't contribute to the property tax line. And so they're not contributing and they're 25% of calls for ambulance. So I think we give them a deadline. And say, guys, if you're not gonna pony up, they've been telling us for 3 years that would. If you're not gonna pony up, we need the money. Or we need to pull the service. We need to do something different. Because it's not fair to the rest of the county to be funding an ambulance that you're consuming those services and not contributing to. The other big part of that is IHS owes Frontier Ambulance $300,000 to $500,000. I can't remember, the numbers floated a little bit, but it's a big number because they haven't paid up. So that's a problem. Now with the movement of the tribes to go to the 638 model. And I asked the ambulance, say, are you getting funding out of the ambulance? Because they've been at 638 for several years. If you're not getting it there, if you're not getting that
So
reimbursement.
are they?
I don't know. He
Oh,
he
you asked
couldn't answer it, so I
Okay.
asked him. I said, I'm suspecting that it's mostly Shoshone. So, but, okay, and they're going to the 638 model, maybe that relieves some of that. And there's some other legislative things that would relieve those, would relieve the bottom line for the ambulance too, which is it's another complicated deal that we've been working on for 4 years, but it involves the federal government in terms of their reimbursement rates.
This might be a bit of a rabbit trail, but part of this library is classified as Carnegie, right? Is it?
Well, we call it, it's the Carnegie Building. It doesn't have, like, where are you going?
Is it some sort of historical marker or? Is there historical significance for part of this building to the state of Wyoming?
I don't know. I know if it gets that designation, there are probably a lot of rules attached to that.
So
I
we
just
do not-
wondered if there was money attached to it as well, you know, cause
Grants,
our
basically.
property maintenance and stuff is a big deal. It's a big cost in our budget items. We have. You know, Du Bois is a smaller building, but we got 2 huge buildings here. And I just thought as a rabbit trail, we might look into, can we get some state funding for building maintenance if this building is a historical site of some sort?
I thought my impression was with most historical designations is that it's a money loser. I mean, all of a sudden, if you get a historic designation, then there are all sorts of rules and regs about how
And
to
it- and it-
remodel this and
And
that.
it could be, but I also know that there, you know, a lot of people get money to revamp and you know, even historical bars and things like that. But I don't know what the downside is, right? But maybe something
Could you look
to,
into it?
yeah, I mean, I could peek
Okay.
into it and
You
see,
can do it, because if we could get some money, that'd be awesome.
you know, you just never know.
I appreciate Mike kind of fleshing this out, because it's not, I mean, we're not here to talk about ambulances, but we're talking about the pressures that hammer the budget. And the idea is, where are we in the mix? And I don't worry about this budget session, but I do worry about the next, and I think that,
We do too.
and I wanted to say that, I didn't want to sound hostile, but I do want to say that we have to find means. I know that some counties are looking at eliminating, though it's a legal issue, all mileage reimbursements for everyone. And that's an impossibility. But you know, all of these things that people look at, the time, we have to realize that the stewardship of the commissioners is that they have had to do so out of necessity. And whether all the commissioners understand it as well as Mike, that isn't our discussion. It's really this discussion of whether we are going to have to ask for a realignment of foundations means to help, which is historically not been salaries or building, but auxiliary items. And I think that we have to find out that there is things that we have to come into play that are going to be different. We're going to have to ask for money from organizations to take care of things so that we can accept that we will have a budget for salaries and things, but all those other things that cost the rest of it, the other third that kind of comes in. 20, 15%, whatever it is, but those means have to come from really a donation situation. We don't have to plead poverty and point a finger at who's causing it. We know the reasons. It's in decrease in revenues. But we have to find a way that we don't lose hours by being able to make sure that we're not having some of the things that we want unpaid, and then we have to lose money. I've said it twice, so I don't have to say it.
Anything else?
No, I think that's pretty good.
Director's report.
Great, as usual, thank you. Good.
You are welcome.
Thorough.
So, you know, we won't have the fiscal year that we just completed, we won't have like the final closed out numbers for, till probably the end of this month or beginning of August, but I was just pleased in that first item or second item, just projecting that of our operating expenses, that 98% of our budget was expended. And so, you know, as we get closer to the end of a fiscal year, like in the last few months, we're really watching, you know, what revenues actually have come in. Not just from the county, but also our fines and fees and our room rent. And, you know, typically we're not trying to spend 100% because there's always something that happens in the last week of the fiscal year. And this time it was the air conditioning at Riverton, you know, a couple fuses blew. And so, you know, that was a like $715 expense. And so, but we planned for the unexpected at the end of the fiscal year. So it's, you know, we're just always, you know, watching every dollar as we close in, especially in June. So I'm optimistic that we are under budget. But, you know, just enough, Mr. Commissioner. Yeah, and the special revenue fund is it's just a different beast than our general fund, because those monies do carry over, and we have several grants that cross fiscal years. So, you know, we end a fiscal year, but we're midway through a grant. So, and then, you know, Lander received a $10,000 donation for collection development yesterday. And
Wow.
this is from a local patron.
Anonymous or?
Well, I know he is, but,
Yeah, no.
but he wants to be anonymous,
No,
and
That's
it's just-
incredible. That's awesome.
it's, you know, someone who values our libraries, and, so anyway,
Wow.
so it's encouraging, but it's also just unpredictable.
Yeah.
Mm.
Hard to plan for.
Strategic planning, you know, MJ, she's the director of the Lander Community Foundation, and so until Challenge for Charities is over, she really, you know, we haven't made as much progress as we wanted to. So we've met a couple times just to kind of, you know, go through the manual, and, you know, we've got a long list of potential planning committee people and stuff. So it's, if we can get to next week and she's still functioning, so it just puts us back, I hope, just a month on getting the planning committee together.
Do you kind of have Carrie in your mind like a date for Anita when you guys want the strategic plan wrapped up and
Well, I think
rolled out?
Yeah, I think we were working backwards from like by the end of December, by the December board meeting, because the current strategic plan ends at the end of this year, so having it ready to go. So I mean, if we were,
We're
if
not
you guys,
super
if you guys were
aggressive, then
adopting it
no.
in January,
That's fine.
yeah. So- Anyway.
With kind of along that same line,
Mhm.
last year at this time, or close to this time, we had a annual report. Are you planning that for next month?
Yeah, I think, what did I think
You
last
said
year,
something in the.
yeah, presented it to the commissioners.
In August.
It was in August, so I'll try and have it ready by the August board meeting.
Okay.
So that should be doable.
Any-
And then just the internet filtering, you know, June 7th was when the new firewall hardware was installed. And so, so on the children's computers, right now the firewall is set and that covers the children's computers with the additional filtering. So, the children's computer part of it, that's just, it's a machine by machine.
And are they
Stuff
easy
that he has to
progressing?
do. As of a couple days ago, I think he was purchasing the subscription. So.
Okay.
But anyway, that's the update on that. And then we just, well, sure.
From the standpoint of the request from the commissioners, we don't have to worry about us imposing a deadline for that to be done to kind of make sure that we're in compliance with the demand of the commissioners.
Well,
From a timetable standpoint, and should we act in a fashion that isn't pejorative, but to say we need to have this in place by 1st of August?
you know,
And Mike, does that, I mean, what's your take on that? I mean, because this is your
I mean, I
county
thought,
department. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
we
now in your
passed
county's
it,
hand.
but-
So how do we?
I can't answer it.
I mean, you're our liaison.
I get it. I can't answer it. I don't know when we're gonna get to it.
No, that's not the question.
No, should we be putting pressure on Kevin
On
as a
your-
board, I think is the
Yeah.
Did he give you
question.
a timeline?
Okay, so just let me reiterate. So the firewall is in place. The settings on on the network filtering. At the moment, the settings cover what you want to accomplish on the children's computers.
So
Okay,
they're over filtering for the adults.
yes.
Okay.
And
So does
so
that
it'll
satisfy-
stay that way until the individual children's
Okay.
computer. So we.
So at
we
that
does
point,
that
I would
satisfy-
call it accomplished.
I would think so. I mean,
So that's,
Well, you guys tell me. Did you get what you asked for?
yes, well, we got a negative impact while we're waiting for your employees to finish installing the software. So right now, the adult computers are being over filtered so that
All
we
the-
protect the kids. Yeah, so
They are.
all computers are being over filtered.
That's what I
The
heard.
additional filtering hasn't happened to the children's.
Right, so the children's are protected, but in the trade-off is the adults are being over filtered.
Again, did he give you a deadline?
He's.
He's working.
He's your employee.
It's-
He's not,
it's-
it's like.
Well, you
It is
asked
in-
him
it
and he
is in
does serve
progress.
you
It
guys.
is in
That's one of
progress.
his duties.
I'm.
I'm gonna mention this, and it's not to be. It's the question of not even compliance, but for us to have performance so that we can outwardly state that the pressure that was put on us and the agreement by our board to do so should be announceable and that should have a timeline. So the only thing is I would not set a timeline. I would ask for his timeline before we react to it. So if you don't mind hearing a suggestion as the board, it would be to ask the IT crowd, what is the timeline so that we can know that the job is done? And that we have no reason to put more pressure on you because it will be done as you have time to do so, but we'd like to know what that timeline is.
And then
Yes,
can you
I'm
just
gonna
report
say,
back-
I would call it an approximate timeline because Kevin is really a one-man operation for the whole county. And our project gets
Yeah, of course,
bumped,
it's a lot.
yeah, but our project gets bumped when the network for the county goes down, or there's some emergency in another department. So it's, you know, it's in his docket of stuff to do, and in the meantime, the protections that you guys voted for are in place.
So I think that's the
It's
important
just-
thing for the public is
Yeah.
that the filtering is in place. Yeah, period.
Mhm.
And, at the detriment to some of the adults may have trouble,
My
going
apo-
back to.
My apologies for not taking it well, but the question is that I think we have to be in a position to report our continuing
Yeah.
improvement schedule. And this is
Right.
one of those things that is.
Yep, no, I agree, John, completely, but
I read the report on the filtering. I didn't have any alarm bells go off. If it drags on, let me know and I'll put a bug in his ear.
Thank you.
Anything else under the reports? Okay, so we'll move that book donation to August. Moving on.
I didn't mean to. I just wanted to say, I really enjoyed all the information about the summer activities.
Yeah, they're
Like,
busy.
it was fun reading all the stuff,
And-
so I wanted to throw that.
Yeah,
I
very
will pass that along.
No, and I like seeing also the books that were the sets of books that were most popular, of the series, so it's just
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
I mean, it's interesting to see what people want to read,
Mhm.
I like that.
Okay, moving on.
Dog Man continues. his
Yeah.
reign of Popularity. I'm glad it wasn't Captain Underpants.
That was my son's favorite.
I know, this is the Captain Underpants stage.
It's,
I talked with a lot of parents about this.
Library board orientation, I want to, welcome Kristen back, so it's nice to know that we have a
stable.
Yeah. stable board, so, but we still have some orientation to do. So, everybody got, refills for their manual. And I'll let you start the orientation.
With me? I thought you, okay. I think we're just actually gonna go through the board member manual.
Okay.
And really I think the only change was, the organizational chart. Because I think previously this had been revised in 2022.
Wow.
What page are we going to?
Let me see where.
29.
46. General employment organizational chart,
It's the organizational chart,
page 46. Under
I've
the
got
I only
page
have 43.
Fremont County,
I only have 43 too.
Or were you in the policy manual?
I'm in the policy manual.
Okay,
we're in-
okay.
oh,
This is the.
We're in
this
the
is
board manual.
Oh,
Okay.
right, then I'll check there.
So I was
Trying
thinking
to find the
that,
table of contents, but
Well, why don't we just go, since we know it's on 43 in the policy and procedures, why don't we just go there?
well, basically, it's just. All that it's showing is that. we
oh,
don't
right
have-
here, organizational chart. I think it's page 29.
So we don't have the, assistant director
Yeah,
position
right.
anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's that one. Yeah.
One thing I noticed, we need
color
to
code.
update our website on Kristen's term.
Okay.
That's still said 20.
Okay.
Wait, mine says 27.
I think you said on the
On the
website.
Oh, website, I'm
it
sorry.
needs to be fixed on the website.
Eh? Sorry, just kidding.
You're down one ear. It's
Yeah,
okay.
I heard that, it just didn't compute.
Well, Carrie, I thought we would just be reading through this and
Okay, that's
answering
fine.
any questions or any discussion
Right.
that came up.
So can we get Jim Anderson to come back again and do all the financial stuff? I think that,
Yeah, let's-
maybe like
Shooting for
August, September.
August for
Okay.
that.
Since there's concerns.
So page 5, is just a kind of summary chart of the director's duties and the board members' duties. And there's more information about this in the the trustees handbook that the state library has, which you guys should still have. And so
This one?
it's not the. It's
The library
No,
laws.
it's the
Under
What is
the
it
county?
No.
No, it's the Wyoming
Your
State
binder.
Library.
Handbook,
Wyoming State Library.
it's like this
So,
third tab in your manual.
right, so
Gotcha.
that just goes into more detail. And
Okay.
the state library, I believe this year is gonna work on updating their manual because some of the links are outdated and, it's just.
Yeah,
I
some
think
of them.
been since maybe 2018. Well, Carrie, what about like just page 6, and we just read through and just see if there's any discussion or questions? So on page 6, job preparation, what does a board member do? Board members of public libraries have full power to manage the public library, elect officers, establish library policy, and receive, control, and manage property, which shall come into the hands of the library by gift, purchase, devise, or bequest for the use and benefit of the library. The board appoints a director for the efficient administration and conduct of the library. So there are the statutes. So basic responsibilities: setting library policy, providing financial oversight, strategic planning in cooperation with the director, promoting library use through community relations and advocacy, hiring and regularly evaluating the director. Best way to be an effective board member is to prepare for, attend, and participate in all the board meetings, These meetings are essential for keeping the lines of communication strong between board members and the library director and for sharing information. This time is used to discuss issues, plan for the future, evaluate current services, set priorities, clarify or revise policies, make decisions, coordinate activities, and gain mutual understanding. The board chair and director generally develop the meeting agenda together, but individual board members may add items to the agenda at the beginning of the board meeting. Any questions on that? I know something that I'm gonna recommend in this next year's is not packing the agenda too full and not having, kind of deciding what your time frame for your meeting is gonna be. And if it's gonna be a 2-hour meeting, then plan for a 2-hour meeting. And so that might mean having to do less in meeting.
On the other hand, if there's stuff that we have to accomplish, we have to accomplish.
Accomplish,
I mean,
yeah.
it's like, we have to kind of suck it up and work. I mean, it would be my feeling, but
Yeah, but I think it's still good to start from a place of the goal is to have a time limit, just so everybody knows.
well, and we were so much better than we were 4 years ago, where we were having 6 and 8 hour meetings. So I think we're doing, yeah, we're doing quite well.
And water can say that.
Yeah.
Okay, monthly board meetings are held via Zoom as well as rotating between the DuBois, Lander, and Riverton facilities. Packet of relevant information is emailed to each board member at least 5 days before the meeting. Packet includes the agenda, the unapproved minutes from the previous meeting, library system reports, and other documents relevant to the meeting. So it's not always 5 days before the meeting. And really, so Saturday is 5 days before the meeting. So that's typically when they get the packet out. And then just, in the last few months, we started doing the updated signature page, which, so that got to you yesterday. So 5 days is what I shoot for, but there are some documents that may not get to you until like 2 or 3 days before the meeting. And usually I will alert you if there's a document coming that's not with the board packet that goes out on the Saturday before. It's important for the board chair to keep discussion flowing so that everyone has a chance to voice opinions and ask questions, and so that no one dominates. Practical guide to conducting meetings is available in the county appointed board member handbook. And so I know last year Julie came and she did some board training also.
And that packet she gave us, is that the county appointed board member handbook?
Yeah. And
Okay.
I,
I think, yeah.
you've got that in your,
I don't have one of these.
Fremont County.
you don't have
You
one?
don't have
of
that?
those?
I have never gotten 3-ring binder. I have all my stuff in alligator clips.
Well, I know you probably had.
At one point.
Everybody got one at
Yeah.
one point. So
There-
you're,
Well, you might.
I don't know what, I mean, I have a home office and
oh,
You make her
I'm
open up
pretty,
one.
I'm
I
pretty
remember
tidy.
when I got this, you were gone and you were acting president, but you were coming on Zoom. And so you probably didn't get. the
Yeah, I never
actual-
got a binder. I just have everything.
okay, well,
But I do have that, I believe.
all right.
Well,
we're getting-
Can you
get a
create
binder.
her one?
Of course.
No, we'll not.
Okay, finally, given the scope of authorities and responsibility of board members, liability is often a concern for new board members. This is addressed in Wyoming statutes 123-107. Members of any government board are not individually liable for any actions, inactions, or omissions that may occur when board members are acting in good faith.
And you had a question about your personal liability.
That addresses that. But I feel like, and that's what I was saying, just to recap, about me signing something I didn't see is not me acting in good faith. It's me blindly signing
Right.
my name. Okay.
Okay, section 2, board roles. Policies reflect a board's philosophy of service and help ensure that the staff will put that philosophy into place when developing procedures. Policies offer guidelines for crises and conflicts and offer a framework for everyday business. public libraries need policies in the following areas: general goals and priorities, general operation, confidentiality of library records, non-discrimination, intellectual freedom, collection development, personnel, and public use of electronic resources. Policies should be clear and concise to be easily understood and broad and flexible enough to apply to many circumstances. They should positively reflect the library's long-range plans for service. Developing policies requires discussion among the board and staff, and then reaching consensus so that everyone involved supports and upholds them. The library director should advise you when policies or revisions are needed. Policies should also be reviewed by the local government liability pool risk manager or the county, I would say, and county attorney's office for legal compliance. And then LGLP is our liability insurance provider. Once policy is adopted, everyone on the board and staff should abide by and support it publicly, and the librarian should expect a free hand in carrying it out. Board members should avoid making policy outside of board meetings. Save disagreements and discussions about policy matters for board meetings, and welcome discussion and examination of policies on a regular basis. All board members have a copy of library policies located in the board notebook. Library policies should be reviewed at least once every 5 years. Staff members should each have a copy of the manual. With the understanding library finances, one section, maybe we should just jump to that, is my table of contents. In section 4, it talks about our funding sources, the financial terms we use, and the account numbers. So this is a handy thing to refer to. Like when you're looking at the accounts payable, if there's not a note there.
Starts on page 23 and the prefixes are on page 26.
Okay, yes, no, I think this is all still accurate. Really, WyoStar, at the moment, we don't have anything invested with WyoStar.
Had you in the past?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it got down to where it was like $8,000. And it wasn't really generating much interest, and that's when it was shifted to the interest-bearing checking account, or the interest-bearing account, it's not checking, with the state library, because it earned better interest. Okay, so I mean, really, something to keep in mind is that we have 5 accounts. The general fund account, which is the money that we get from the county. And then our special revenue accounts, there are 4 of them. An admin, a Lander, a Riverton, and a DuBois. And so each of those accounts has their own revenues, and each of those accounts have their own expenditure line items. So there are a few spinning plates to keep track of. For the special revenue funds, that is all our library fines and fees, our meeting room rent
Rental.
that we collect, donations and grants. So that's how those are funded. And really, we start the year knowing what the foundation has granted us to work with. But the fines and fees and meeting room rent, obviously we haven't collected that yet.
Changes, yeah.
So we hope that we'll take in what we've expected to take in, but what I've been doing is in December, I look and see what have we collected. And I've even doing this on a quarterly basis. And then adding that money actually into the spreadsheet so that the managers know this is money we actually have received. So, it's that dance between what you hope that you're gonna get, what you know you have, and then still needing to do purchasing.
So the
So-
question I have is if, someone rents this room, that money is to be used only for the lander?
No,
Okay,
Special fund overall.
it's it goes
Good.
into the admin fund.
Okay.
So fines and like overdue fines, copying fees, replacement library cards. Those all go into the admin, the special revenue fund admin. account.
Okay,
So that can be used for system-wide collection development, system-wide programming. Paying for the piano tuner, our overdrive, collection development. But like money that the Lander Library receives from a patron for a damaged book or a lost book, which are very small amounts of money every year, but it's still money that goes for Lander back into its collection development fund. And
So
then,
the stuff that's coming from the foundation goes into the admin.
yes,
Right.
yeah, and so it can
Yeah.
be, it's, for instance, like the collection development grant from the foundation. Most of our expenses for overdrive are from that grant, but then also, Riverton receives fewer donations. It has just a smaller collection development budget on its own. So it might receive more
From the
money
foundation.
from that.
From the admin,
Yeah,
but you don't ever take money that's donated to, let's say, Du Bois specifically and send that to Riverton or Land.
correct. Right.
Just
Yeah,
wanted to
no,
clarify.
no, those are good questions. So
Is your foundation grant run on the fiscal year or the calendar year?
it's fiscal.
So it goes at
Thankfully.
the same time with the
Thankfully.
budget? Yes, okay.
Yeah,
And then when you're projecting kind of your, you're even doing it quarterly, does it change wildly year to year? It doesn't seem like it when we look at the budget, but I don't,
it doesn't change a whole lot, I think.
so you can
in
kind of project.
in this, so a couple years ago, or maybe it's 3 now, we revised our fee schedule, which hadn't been revised in a long
Years
time.
ago.
And so, and the daily fine for an overdue book is now 20 cents instead of a dime. But actually, we also reduced the level where someone's card gets blocked. And the idea is just if they keep a short account, they are gonna be, it's just easier for them to.
More likely to pay.
Yeah, and so that's worked out, and I think it has stabilized our fines and fees. And so we actually, I'm curious to see what the final numbers are for the fiscal year, but we were a little bit ahead of what we had budgeted. I think 25,000 in fines and fees. And a lot of that is what we receive for printing and copying costs.
Do we make a little money on printing and copying, or does it just cover our toner and paper?
Our arrangement with Capital Business changes because we rent our copiers from them, and so each year, so we have 2 separate payments to them. One is equipment rental, and then one is actual usage, so paying for exactly how many copies we did. So we've actually been saving money in our arrangement with them, but this is the first year of that arrangement, so I'm curious to see,
How it
what
shakes
how much we actually received in that, and then compare it to a cost for that. But our costs for renting the copiers are a service agreement and a general fund, so we'll
You
see.
need us to take a break, John?
No, I will be right back. I just have to put a syringe.
So, and I just, as we move ahead and budgets are still tight and, honestly, I think the results of our presidential election are gonna have some kind of impact on Wyoming's economy. We'll just see,
Some kind of impact on something.
What's that?
but just,
They're gonna have some kind of impact on something.
or the world could end before then. You know, kind of, not a miss to that. But anyway, I think just pursuing new grants and bolstering our special revenue funds is just something that we're gonna have to do. To continue, we'll have to continue to do. The meeting room fee schedule change that we made, actually, that's where I think we saw the biggest increase because it was much more clarified who actually had to pay a rental fee, because a lot of people don't, you know. But giving them the opportunity to make a donation, people are generous, and so we've had some generous donations toward meeting room. So, but it's not huge money, it's not huge money. But it at least helps us cover, you know, some of our programming. Any questions on any of that financial stuff? So, you know, Carrie, I would just encourage
Everybody to
all of us to
reread.
read through, make notes on what questions that we have that we should discuss.
Yeah.
And
it's-
it's just a good refresher, you know. I tell my staff, read through the policy manual at least a couple times a year. Because a lot of times, I mean, there are the things that we deal with all the time, like our circulation policy, meeting room policy. But then there are things that you don't have to look at the policy on very often, and so you can just kind of forget what our policy is, so. And I think for the next board meeting, you know, I'll just have a list of items in our policy manual that we should look at this year, although I would really like it if we didn't do too much big stuff, because with the strategic plan, I don't. But we've done some pretty major stuff, policy wise in the last couple of years.
Would you like us to submit any questions we might have, like via email prior to the meeting, so
That's a
you
good idea.
can find the answers or whatever you need to do?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
And then hopefully we can get, do you want Julie to come back and do another board refresher?
I don't know, I think, she pretty much kind of goes over what's in the Fremont County handbook.
Right, so I think
So
we just need to make sure we've got whatever's the
go
most
through that.
up to date. Is that what she gave last year?
This is
Or
what
is
she
that-
gave a couple of years ago, yeah.
Okay,
So
so
Kristen,
I will-
Barnett, do you guys want her to come
I
back?
don't think so.
I think same thing. Well, let's submit questions. If we have questions about Julie's stuff, you can always pass them on to Julie. If you feel like she, you know, oh my gosh, I got 10 questions about Julie's stuff, maybe,
Right,
but if not,
Yeah,
Okay.
and then, but do you still want Jim to come
I don't
go
know, I mean,
through?
that was more in deference to your concerns.
but I personally felt like Jim just gave us an overview of the county
Yeah.
last year. I didn't feel like it was super meaningful to us, the library, individually. I mean, I guess if he wanted to come explain exactly how the bills go through, but it still remains to me, it's about my signature on stuff. It's not really about what Jim does. I don't suspect nefarious activity.
Do you feel more comfortable now that you will ahead of time ask
Yes.
Anita for ones that
Yes,
you want to see? Anything else that needs to be addressed with that?
I don't believe so. No, I just
Cool.
want to be able to look at what I'm signing.
We'll scratch Jim. I mean, that would be my feeling.
Unless you you wanted to ask him questions about like the property tax changes. And
You
what might be kind
Feel
of.
like he's gonna have answers at this point? in the budget process and the,
Not at the, maybe not at the library level, certainly at the high level, he can answer some questions, but I don't know that. Yes, he can speak to the budget, but it's gonna be at a county. Thing else, he can look at your inflows and outflows, he's got a certain amount in there for cash flow for you guys, so. And you already know that, I just don't know if that would be anything significant, but you can always ask, if there's something specific.
I'm fine either way, really.
I'm good skipping one. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
He's way past busy anyway, so.
All righty.
Okay, so we're gonna just read through, make
Individual
Comments.
Individual
questions, yeah, and or points of discussion that you guys want.
Cool.
And
Do we need to sign off on our conflict of interest, or is that just for new? We do that
guys,
here.
you're supposed to actually take the oath every year. I think everybody's supposed to take the oath. And I think it was your bylaws saying, and then,
I don't know. About the oath. It does say that. Sworn by each board member.
before assuming office and upon any subsequent reappointment to the board. So I
maybe
guess
we
that's
should do
like.
that right now.
Yep.
So that's on page 1 of our bylaws,
What was the other question?
signing off the conflict. of interest.
And that's a new thing you guys added.
Maybe we do that.
Oh, conflict of interest, section
August.
3, the board will comply with Wyoming's laws regarding conflict of interest. So maybe it's in your procedures.
It's in our bylaws, it's on page 4.
Yeah,
Maybe we have a individual page copied for that, just for our.
Okay, so on the bylaws, only Kristen is the one that needs to do the oath of office today.
Yeah, now look.
And then
It
let's
says
go-
it's sworn by each
Yeah.
board member on section 4 of the bylaws.
Yeah, so that's when we come on, for our 3-year stint.
Then
You
we do
swear
it.
that.
Yeah, it doesn't
we
say
do it.
every year, does it?
And then it says
Assuming.
specifically on reappointment. So it's just,
Just for Kristen.
so then our,
Conflict is on page 4.
yeah, and then of your procedures, the actual form, I was looking to see if it was an every year thing. I think, that was an every year thing.
I don't think it doesn't specify. Each individual shall disclose, but it
I
doesn't
think
say.
that's-
that.
Well, it says
Do it.
during the past year.
okay,
This is to certify I accept as described on the reverse of the sheet am not now or at any time during the past year have been.
okay, so we should do
So I
it
guess you should do it
Yeah.
every year.
So how about we do that in August?
August, yeah, so Anita, can you put that on and just print them out when we sign them
Okay, say that again, sorry.
Conflict of
It's
interest.
Conflict of interest
in August?
Okay.
For everybody.
Shall we
So you have Kristen.
do the
do
oath?
little-
Yeah, where's your oath?
Samples 1.
There. Right,
Solemn oath to be sworn by each board member before assuming office and upon. You want me to do it out loud?
yeah,
I do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wyoming, that I have not knowingly violated any law related to my election or appointment, or caused it to be done by others, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
cool.
Thank
There
you.
go.
Okay. So under new business, I was asked to put the day and time of library board meetings. And let's hear what you have to say, and then we'll look at our bylaws, because it says in the bylaws we do. So,
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, there's been some discussion over the past year that a lot of people can't attend board meetings because they're during the day. So I have been thinking about that, but I also am gonna be tutoring my daughter next year in our homeschool group, and that meets Wednesdays. So it would just be I couldn't make it on Wednesday morning, I'm the first Wednesday morning, so it would just be very difficult for me to do that, so I was hoping that we could move it in order to accommodate that.
According to our bylaws, under, I had it up here, meetings, which is on page 2 of our bylaws. Date, time, and location of the
Right.
regular meetings of the board shall be established for the calendar year. And then also in our orientation, it specifically says that the regular board meetings are held on the first Wednesday of each month, beginning at 9:30. I too have been asked, if we could possibly do something different because of people working and being able to meet at a morning weekday. So. Very,
I have a question for the commissioner, for our liaison. Can you guys do after hours? Are you willing to do after hours?
Yeah, so.
I know, like the planning board meets at like 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah. Those are, I mean,
may I suggest,
okay.
I think there is consideration for the schedules of others. But business of the county for the most part, with the exception of maybe equalization, some other things. You know, like talking about zoning. We're a diverse place, and I don't like the idea that we would have night travel for individuals.
Good point.
Especially in
In the
winter and
winter.
everything
Yeah.
else. I think the prosecuting this department is to be during the day for the advantages of the individuals that have access and the rest. I just don't like the idea that since we do have Du Bois up the hill, even though that's 2 times, I think the availability, and it's not quoting anything, I really would like it, but we can make it agreeable to most people, but the reality is that we should have them during the day for reasons of public safety and things like that. Buildings are open,
and
the
also,
availability of individuals that work in departments to
Right.
be able to get testimony. I'm not trying to give a argument, I'm just suggesting consider that in whatever is going to be the majority decision.
When I think saying that Du Bois is only twice a year is cavalier.
It's
Because we still have, well, no, it's the Du Bois board member needs to come down, travel the other night. So I mean, we still have a travel issue. And for, my husband's working up at Du Bois, that's not, you don't want to do that at night. Like, it's just,
I would
in the winter,
suggest
so.
to you that whatever the wisdom is of the commission is going to be that everyone here, I think, is kind of sworn to the notion that we're systemic and we're not just advocates for our corner.
Right.
right,
And that has been best outfit. So I don't know if the inherent that Du Bois effect. As a for
and that's not anywhere in our bylaws or.
There was something to that extent saying about the numbers. I mean, I personally think there should be a number for any place we have a brick and mortar library. Okay, an effort shall be made by the board to ensure that applications for appointment are received from the 3 separate population centers in Fremont County. So that the county commissioners can consider geographic representation in making their decision. So,
that's in the plot.
but anyway, I agree. I mean, yeah, I don't care what day it is. I think daytime, it would be my preference for travel issue when it gets dark.
If it's a different day, that would make it easier.
Yeah, I mean, it's only, I just need to switch the day. I mean, I brought up the other time, it's just because it's been raised,
So 1 day during business.
I can do
And
it.
I'd be agreeable to that, the reason we should be able to. As long as we're accommodating that.
Would we be agreeable maybe on the extent that we've heard from people that work and stuff that they'd like to attend that? Maybe we could do it closer to a noon time where
Yeah.
people might be able to come for a little while during their lunch breaks or something if we're not open to evening. I personally have a job where I am required to travel 365 days a year and no one cares if you're on a 2-track road in a snowstorm, so I don't, that part doesn't really matter to me, but I get where you're coming from with the Du Bois and nighttime. But I also think we should still, if we're gonna change stuff, we should try to make it more accommodating to the working public.
So why don't you do it 11:30 on
Thursday,
Thursdays, like, yeah,
would that be
whatever.
okay?
Well, ask,
Monday?
should ask in this process. Madam Chair, you should ask the parties that are agreeable, as Mike said, during the business week. Public, I'm just thinking of all parties, it's fun, it's agreement. It shouldn't be.
Is there a preference?
You
Date?
know, I know that this comes up every few years about the day and the time, and so I don't know, like, what other discussion has been had in the past about when to have board meetings. So I really don't have an opinion.
There's not a date in the week that you or Counselor. You can accommodate,
Well, it's just
part of the check.
part of the work week.
Would
Right.
Mondays be better?
No, I don't think Mondays would be.
Mondays would be
Mondays are
horrible for me. I could make it work, but we run payroll, we do all our reports to oil companies. Mondays are hell on wheels, my job.
And I think, I mean, just.
I like the idea that you don't have, if we talk about the requirement of 4 days or 5 days for material to be disseminated, even though we know some things don't get to you.
Mhm.
Having a Thursday would be of a benefit for that extra time. To
It's
make
not-
sure that we have these materials in an adequate fashion prior to.
Mhm.
How about Friday?
Not good.
No, people are leaving.
I mean, I have personal reasons why I'm taking it, but I just think it's a case of what works for the system, what works for the members, what works for the public.
I do know that most conferences that I attend either start on Wednesday afternoon or start on Thursday. So it could be that there's. Well, it just depends on if we stick with the first week of the month. I mean, it's not always gonna happen that.
So your commitment is every Wednesday
Every Wednesday,
and that can't be changed?
no. I mean, it's 40 some families that it's been set.
I'm open to Thursday.
Let's have some time for notification.
Right.
People aware it's prior to its actual fact.
And I'm gonna have to really change some stuff around. This could be a little hard. On Thursdays is not a good day, but so I want a couple months lead time to.
What about
Yeah,
Tuesdays?
this wouldn't take effect for me until September because we start in August and it would be later in the month, so.
Mike, are there any, just curious, boards that don't have their meeting at the same time and the same day every?
A regular schedule.
Yeah, like, do they sometimes have an evening meeting once a month and sometimes have it?
Solid waste, moves it occasionally, but they publicize it, so. I think other boards, you know, if things come up, they're flexible. There's generally a schedule, but they're flexible. They jump around. And if weather comes up and say, you know what, we're not gonna get a quorum or it's gonna be online or whatever, I think there's a lot of flexibility in different.
I was just thinking for the whole working public thing, what if you did something like an evening meeting once a quarter or something? But maybe that just muddies everything. I don't know.
I'd rather see us be consistent. And if it benefits this, it could be changing.
A lot of our public know that it's the first Wednesday of the month.
So I'm suggesting that September would be our first.
Yeah,
I will not be in attendance that first meeting.
but you'd be there on Wednesday.
I would be there. That's Barely.
Well, maybe we started in October, if we decide to change to Thursday, started in October.
Then Marta would miss September.
Well. Should we just think on it and make a decision in August? That's fine.
I would rather make a decision
Now.
today so that
Now.
Anita can let the public know as soon as possible.
I
Frankly,
think we have to not kick many things.
Okay,
And I-
Let's make a decision that is our constructing.
so let's take a quick poll. Do you wanna do that? Mondays, Anita says,
not for,
are you anti-Monday kind of? I am,
I think Mondays and Fridays just aren't
they're
good
chaos.
Okay.
because holidays happen on Mondays,
and Fridays.
and
Yeah.
Fridays.
So that leaves us Tuesday and Thursday, which is better for you guys, Tuesday or Thursday?
Um,
Thursday. That's just- Sort of see.
Both
Either
are
one
bad for
work.
me, so.
Either one works for
Thursday's
me.
fine, so, yeah.
Carrie, is your September conflict a regular conflict?
No.
Just for that? one?
It's just that.
Okay. And would it be possible to Zoom?
No.
From where, okay,
No, we do a first part of September, a camping trip up in the wilds and with, I don't know if you remember last year, I could text you, but I couldn't call you.
Right.
Remember that?
I prefer Thursday.
Okay. So I'll motion that we change our board meetings beginning in September to the first Thursday of every month at 11:30 a.m.
Second.
Also. Application of means such as the.
Yeah, now that we have someone to do that. Any other discussion on
we're still on the first Thursday.
first
Yeah.
Thursday of the month at 11:30?
Starting in September.
Starting in September. Gives us a little more time to travel. Those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And you're gonna be gone that day too, in September.
I don't think so. I
Oh,
don't
look
know.
at that.
I don't know. I have to look.
Okay,
Just.
I know that I'll be gone. All right. Any more for the betterment of the order?
Nope.
Let's adjourn. It is 11:02. Have a safe Independence Day. people. Now, my real work begins.